Hey, what's up everyone? Hope you're all doing really well, enjoying your weekend. I wanted to use this video and talk about another popular topic, and that's salary negotiations. I have another video I did a few months ago about my personal salary progression. You can watch that before this, you can watch that after this, it doesn't really matter, but it's tightly related. So I'm gonna use this video and just give my personal top points, best things to look out for, my take on salary negotiations, all right? Let's do it. So I think the salary negotiation falls under this big umbrella category of crucial conversations. And I didn't make up that phrase. I actually copied that phrase. It's from a book. I'll have a link to the book in my description. But short story is a crucial conversation is any conversation that potentially affects your life. So if you think about a salary negotiation, a 15-minute conversation could affect what hits your bank account for at least the whole year. So it's serious. And in the context of software development, this could be salary negotiations, it could be your annual review cycle, it could be final rounds of interviews, it could be any number of these conversations, and they're all very important. So I think there's only two major components to any crucial conversation that you have to really think about. The first one is going to be what you want, and the second one is going to be what the other person, your counterparty, wants. So it sounds very meta, really fluffy, but I'm going to try to talk about it on a high level and then give everyone some concrete examples so you can actually be practical about it. But again, those two important things are going to be what you want and what other people want. So let's talk about both of them. So the first one, what you want, I've talked about this before, but this is just really internalizing what you want at one point in your life. And remember, it's always going to be changing. You always want different things at different points in your life. Your friends, family, all your buddies, they can be good resources for you, but the answer to this question always comes from inside first. So I struggle with this. It's always been changing. I know you struggle with this, but we'll struggle with it together. That's really what you have to pinpoint first, and you can actually pinpoint that at least for one moment in your life. It's going to change, but right now, if you just think about right now, this moment, you can either write it down, think about it, but you can put words to what you want. So that's the first thing to think about. Let me give you a concrete example about this. So pretend you're at your software job, you don't like coding, you're tired of the code base, and you're getting really grumpy about your job, right? You just hate going to work, you don't like working on any of the tickets, but pretend your boss has noticed this and he's scheduled this one-on-one conversation to talk to you, and you know that conversation is going to be about, how you're feeling about work, how you're so demotivated, but that is going to be potentially a crucial conversation and it's coming up. So imagine if you went into that conversation with no preparation of what you wanted. Could you even articulate what's bothering? Do you have any idea of what you want to do next? Do you even have an idea of how to improve the situation? So those are kind of the things in that moment you have to internalize what you want. Like, why exactly are you demotivated at that time? Because let me tell you, when that meeting comes, when you finally sit down with your boss one-to-one, if you haven't thought about any of those questions of what you really want at all, that whole conversation is going to be unproductive. So you have to think about those questions. What do you want? And just constantly think about it. The second, this is the more important part, but the second part is what the other person wants. In that book, Crucial Conversations, they call this person your counterparty. It sounds very official, but it's just the person sitting across from you. So what do they want? And for this point, let's just jump straight into an example. So let's pretend you're just your average software developer, and what you want, you've already answered this question, but you decided what you want is some number. You want this salary number, you want to make this amount of money, and I think a lot of us can relate to this, right? You just want to make some arbitrary amount of money, and that's what you want. You've prioritized it over everything else. Bad commute, weird town, like maybe weird interviewers, but all you want is this one number, and that's what you've internalized. It's okay, that's what you've decided, but you've internalized that all you want is this one number, all right? So we've answered question number one. We've answered the question I proposed in part one of what you want, and that's a number. So that part's done. And now the next thing we have to think about is what your counterparty wants. So imagine this situation, but you're in the final rounds of negotiating your salary with a tiny startup, and the conversation is going to be hard because they don't have many funds, they haven't raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're not really going to be able to meet the salary you want, but you really want to make that number. So that conversation is already going to be difficult, and you can sense it. So you really have to start thinking about what your counterparty wants. Let's pretend it's the CEO of this small startup that you have to negotiate. What does he or she really want? So pretend, just put yourself into the shoes of a CEO at a tiny startup. What does he or she really want? Well, they want a few things, right? They want to get their dream off the ground, build their dream. They want to do it for as cheaply as possible because they don't have any money, and they probably want to do it really quickly, right? So imagine if you just start off the salary negotiation mentioning your number, right? Well, the number one thing the tiny startup CEO doesn't want is to spend a huge amount of money. So if you say your number, if you just say $300,000, first thing, you're just gonna block them off. You're gonna put them into defense mode, and they won't have any open conversation with you. So in order to start that conversation, you always have to begin with what they want. So again, what does that tiny startup CEO want? They want something to be built, their dream to be off the ground. They want to do it for as cheaply as possible, and they probably want to do it quickly. So you have to cater to that. The thing about crucial conversations that's really important is that regardless of the topic, you have to keep somebody open. And once someone is open, they're open to talk about a variety of different topics, right? But the moment you close someone's mind, any topic, even if it's really rational, it's like actually a good idea, they'll be closed to it if their mind is closed. So if you're negotiating for your salary at this tiny startup, you can't just close off the CEO's mind immediately by saying your astronomical number. You have to approach it a little differently. You have to approach it with what they want. So imagine if you said this. You said, hey, I really love the mission. I could really get behind the company, and I can also think I can build what you need to be built in a year or less than a year and within budget. But I want to do this for you consistently into the future. I want to do it now. I want to do it for a long time, and I'll do a really good job at it. But to do this and be comfortable doing this, I would need to have my salary number raised. So that was just a pretend pitch, but it wasn't the best pitch. But the whole point of this is that what you have to do is cater towards this small startup, what they really, really want. And what they want is they just want their product built cheaply and quickly, and you have to show that you provide that first. You are the engineer to help get that dream off the ground. You're gonna do it. That's your first priority. And at the tail end of the conversation, once you've proven all those points, once your counterparty is very comfortable that, oh, this is the person that can build my thing, once you've proven all those things, at the tail end of the conversation, just be like, to do this comfortably, I really need to have my salary number raised. And by that point, the CEO is already opened up to you, and they're gonna give you maybe not your $300,000 number, but they're gonna be much more open to that salary negotiation. So that was point number 2. That's the most important part of this video. But too often people just go straight into these conversations without much preparation. They haven't really thought about the other person too much. They just think about their number a lot, and they just want to hit this number they saw on Glassdoor. So really just sit, breathe, and think about what you want first, and then what the other person wants. Because you already know what you want, that's easy, but you just can't show many people what you want. You keep that to yourself. But during a crucial conversation, you already know what you want. You want some number, right? But you have to just understand what they want so you go about it the right way. Finally, I want to give some last tips about this whole salary negotiation thing, crucial conversation thing, which are a little less philosophical. But tip number 1 is remember that all these conversations are going to be relative. So keep that in the back of your head. It could be really important to you, but it could just be a random meeting for your manager, right? It's always relative. A conversation isn't important for every single party present. So just keep that in mind. Important for you doesn't always mean important for some VP you're fighting for the salary with. 2 is that don't over-represent yourself. I've seen too many engineers think they deserve to make like this amount of money because they see their friends making that amount of money at some big company, right? So don't over-represent yourself. If you're just some entry-level engineer, you can't be making crazy amounts of money. So over-representing yourself is a really bad look. Okay, third thing I want to say about salary negotiations is that you should not share too much information early on. For anyone that's been through the process, you already know the recruiters ask you, what are you making now? What are you expecting to make? What's your range? They always ask you these questions early to put you at a disadvantage. And there's actually laws now that they can't really do that. Like, you can keep all that information secret. You should not tell people. And you know, it's hard. Like, I've definitely done it. I've made that mistake where I've told the recruiter very early my range, and I think it's put me at some kind of disadvantage. But you do not have to share that information with anyone. And based on our conversation, remember, that salary negotiation always happens at the end. You prove everything first. You prove your value, you prove your motivation, you prove your alignment with the goals, whatever. You just prove all that stuff first, and when all that stuff is good, you talk about salary way at the end, and you don't give it away early. So those are 3 random points I had. Alright guys, I'm going to sign off now. I hope this video was helpful. Just my personal take on how to, approach salary negotiations. And remember, it's just one. Salary negotiation is just one subset of crucial conversations. And you're going to have a lot of crucial conversations in your life with your friends, with your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. But they're always really important. Try to prepare for them, think about them, and try to grow from them. Alright, hope everyone enjoys the rest of the weekend. Please like the video if you enjoyed it. If you thought it was helpful or somebody else could benefit from it, please share it. You can ask me any questions in the comment section below, and I'll see everyone next time. Alright, take care.